And I believe
And Bet Abroad was reaching out to Man and Joe to see if they, were inclined to try to pass such a ban themselves at the county level. And Man and Joe's response was, let's get the styrofoam ban in place first and see how it goes. And Brad, your response from Tracy was similar.
Mary.
Okay, so that's kind of where it stands, and we're just continuing to look at it, and
Slide down.
we'll see what happens.
Now, if Ulster County approves and the city does, I mean, there's cities in Ulster County, right? So
That
we
would
save
supersede.
ourselves-
That would
Yeah.
that
Save
would
ourselves.
be ideal.
That was kind of the idea, but
As
they
long as we
love
stay in Ulster County.
and don't secede, that's right. But yeah, so it would be lovely if they would consider a plastic bag ban too, because then we wouldn't have to worry about enforcement or any other issue. But anyway, we're just continuing to look at the issue.
Okay.
The second thing and the main thing we're really focusing on now is the natural resources inventory. And our intern has finished. We have a number of maps that he completed. And what's happening now is the Conservation Council is working with the Kingston Land Trust to get funding for continuing the involvement of the intern in this work, because he's very familiar with everything, and I think he's about to be approved for some hours of work in between July and September 1st.
I'm sorry, Terry.
What? But anyway, so we're hoping to have the services of the intern continue. What will happen after the maps are all ready is they have to be interpreted, which means writing text to describe all of the maps. And either that will be done by the Conservation Council, or we will be seeking funding to have that done as well. So there's been a lot of good progress made. The other thing that we're talking about right now is there needs to be some public outreach. And so we're thinking at this point, we'll sort of decide at our next meeting to have some sort of public presentation of the maps and seek public input, perhaps late July, early August, something like that. So that's kind of where we're at with that. We continue to feel encouraged at all the work that's been done, and
And what's the ultimate goal with the map?
the ultimate goal
What is
would,
your-
you have to create a natural resources inventory, which is all the maps plus descriptions of all of them. So,
But you couldn't
and
actually
then they could be used to make open space decisions, planning decisions, to some degree. I mean, the next step after that would be, I believe, an open space index and an open space plan, which we're not there yet. So
what's included in the natural resource then? Woods, water,
everything
streams?
like soil, water, forest,
Okay.
and then other things like cultural, historical assets.
Okay, that's considered.
Okay.
Okay.
And so a lot of stuff. I'm not sure how many, we might have 25 or 30 maps already that describe these different things. And so, I think it's proceeding well.
Would that be an addendum to the comprehensive plan? Because I think the comprehensive plan is going to be completed, hopefully.
And that's kind of a segue into the next thing that I was going to mention, which is the comprehensive plan. And I believe there's a meeting tomorrow night to incorporate public comments. And CAC members made comments already and submitted them in writing. And we've been trying to, as the comprehensive plan has gone along, make sure that we're kind of in compliance with it, or that it would, dovetail together.
Okay.
And yes, it could end up being, an addendum, let's say, but it's been done with the thought that the comprehensive plan is also
Okay.
being worked on.
Because I know we're in the final stages now.
Yeah.
The comment section and the comment on the comment.
Right, exactly. So, and that's kind of it for what we're doing.
All right, anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, could I offer one comment?
Yes.
From the floor on the natural resources? I'm Kevin Smith with the Woodstock Land Conservancy.
Okay.
The town of Woodstock secured funding and commissioned Hudsonia to develop a habitat mapping project for the town of Woodstock, which is basically a more
Right.
comprehensive version of what you all are doing here. And it can be a really valuable tool for planning, and also, I think you're a climate smart community as well.
Yeah,
So in terms of identifying priority areas,
right.
that natural resource inventory can be really
And
valuable.
just to say, Laura Heady from Hudson, I think she's from Hudsonia. We have materials that Hudsonia created already incorporated into our plan, and she's been an advisor all the way along. So we're kind of aware of that resource, and you know, she created a natural habitat survey, which was one of the maps that we began with. And she might have created several maps. So yes, she's a wonderful, well, Hudsonia and Laura are a wonderful resource. In fact, as we were beginning to go full force on this, we met with people from Rosendale, Hurley. I don't know if there might have been somebody from Woodstock, people who had recently completed natural resource inventories or open space plans to understand what the best practices are and, you know, the do's and don'ts. So, but thank you, that's a good comment.
Yeah, we should want to exchange, you know, share information or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, anything else? Hey, anyone else? Matt, you have something?
Yeah, did you give an update on the plastic bag issue and all?
I did.
Okay.
And you know, and just to, long story short, we're continuing to look at all the materials Brad sent us and to do our own research, and still reaching out to the county to see if they would have any interest. And the thought from them seems to be that they want to wait until the styrofoam ban takes effect and see how that goes before considering it.
So one of the things that is I think it's probably one of the overarching issues, and I don't know if the CAC's looked at it, but we know that our costs for our tipping fees keep going up, and it's not going to get any cheaper. And one way to reduce the cost to taxpayers is to reduce our trash. And certainly some communities have adopted zero waste policies, and then have implemented mechanisms to reduce their waste. Is that something that the CAC has looked at,
That has
considered,
come up.
kicked around?
That has come up like alongside this proposed
Right.
ban. And all I can say is we're kind of looking at everything. But, yeah. And it, you know, yeah, that's what I would say. But
We'll see where it goes.
All right, Grant.
We'll see where it goes.
we'll see where it goes.
I'm wondering, how, if at all, can the recent land bank legislation that we've been reviewing and processing, would that relate at all to the open spaces or mapping?
I don't think it did. Right, because open space would be a follow-on to the natural resources inventory anyway. I mean, open space is kind of a component of the natural resources inventory, but this is not a full open space plan. So I guess it would behoove us to, you know, be aware of what's going on. I can't see that it would have any, I don't see at this point how it would have any, you know, real input into the natural resources inventory.
That's
But
kind of space after the fact, I think, isn't it?
Say again?
It's kind of like space after the fact, because if a home is fallen,
Right,
we have the option of making it up.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a question of repurposing, I'm just wondering,
Okay.
any link also to the comp plan?
Yeah, I'll just make a note, and I you know, don't think at this point. Yeah, no, good point.
All right, any other questions?
Not for me.
All right, thank you, Lynn.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
My life.
Okay, next up, the Complete Street Advisory Board. This has kind of been an ongoing thing with Tom Pope. They've been talking about this, revising the composition of the Complete Streets Advisory Board. And if you want to take a few minutes to read it, I know packets have been into people's bin today, so if you want to look it over quick. Basically, what's there is Resolution 196 of 2010 that adopted the Complete Streets, and on the last page of that, it had what the composition is now, and then lines are crossed out, and where it's bolded is what the additions would be to that. And we've had numerous conversations on this, so this
Wasn't it already passed?
Yeah.
not the change of the composition. This is the first we're seeing that.
What did
Well,
we
I was
just
gonna say,
pass?
that was exactly what we worked on.
I thought we reduced the number of members last month
Right.
And
from
And
11
we got rid
to.
of
But I don't think-
Nine, yeah.
I would look into, I think this is already done, Bill.
The only,
I don't think we're doing
the
that.
only thing I might.
Was it in laws and rules, or was it in?
Yeah, it came through rules.
Oh, okay, because I don't remember it coming from doing this.
And right
I
now,
thought we voted on it at the council meeting.
We voted on something in regards to.
the number of people on the board,
Right, but it also eliminated these specific groups, et
right?
cetera. I mean,
Yeah.
the changes I'm seeing here, and
Right.
it went to, 4 terms instead of just 2, et cetera.
Right, the representative transportation plan.
All right, well, that was easy enough.
That's quick.
And then we're
Is-
still,
is-
we're
Dan, is
still
that
working on
correct?
this on,
I mean, I don't know
building
if
a
you-
better Broadway. The complete streets is part of that initiative, so this might go, if this is just for the membership.
No, this
not
is just for the,
just
that's all it
membership.
is, that's all
Okay, I
it
know, we did this,
is. Okay,
Exactly.
I apologize.
Exactly.
that's okay, just checking.
Money's a terrible thing to waste. I know we've been talking about it, it seems like forever.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
we
remember
passed
actually-
it because we discussed how hard it was to get people and then retain them.
Yeah.
I just suggested to someone today that they apply.
Bring them up to 9.
Bring up the- If,
Okay, item 3, the sidewalk on Lucas Avenue. Matt, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so I can actually, can we do both the sidewalk and, well, I guess they're, combine both the sidewalk and the intersection of Lafayette and Lucas. There are similar
Okay.
issues.
Okay, sure.
So, there's a sidewalk that goes from Washington Avenue up Lucas to the edge of Forsyth Park. It stops there, and then you keep going forward, and you get to the city line, and there's no sidewalk. And certainly that's a school area. There's a bunch of residential traffic and foot traffic because we have a congregation that's further up the street, and members don't get in their vehicles and drive. Instead, they walk with their kids, they walk with family members, they walk with other members. So it is a dangerous situation because you don't have a great walking area, you don't have a great safe passage. And so what those members, or at least the people, the Rabbi Heck and the members of the congregation requested is a way to be able to get to the congregation. Really, it makes sense to go have some sort of safe passage all the way up to the city line up from Forsyth to the edge. And this is, I think it ties in with what I've been talking about, I think since we probably first came on the council, was that we need some sort of, not just complete streets, but we need traffic calming measures and so on in order for people to foot traffic and so on to navigate the streets and feel safe when there's oncoming traffic. We don't have it along Lucas Avenue, so I certainly think something needs to be done. So whether they're kids, families, cyclists, people going to the park, people going to any number of the congregation or the other congregation there. So I put in the request. This went through complete streets. Even if it was some striping, I don't care if it's a sidewalk. Something needs to be done. And we have this problem in other areas of the city as well. I'm sure we all have these problems in our ward.
Is there enough room there to write that?
Yeah, because you have to have a minimum amount.
Well, I don't know if there's enough room to stripe it. I know that Mike Shutt probably doesn't have the money in his budget to stripe it. And he probably doesn't have the money in his budget to put in a sidewalk. But we know it's an ongoing problem, and something needs to be done at some point to be able to fix this problem. And a similar problem where you have the intersection of Lucas and Lafayette. It's just a bad intersection. It's a four-way stop, and people roll through the stop signs. The kids, Bailey and Edson are on the route as they go to school, and it's on the way to Deet Stadium. So it's people don't feel safe, and that's a concern. So.
I know Complete Streets, they were going to look at that further up. Did anything ever become of that? Have you
Well,
talked to anyone there?
they wanted a Sharo to go all the way up Lucas, and they decided to do it on North Street instead. or DPW decided, wanted to do on North Street because they didn't want to close down Lucas. So certainly a shower would have been a little bit better. It doesn't really necessarily help the foot traffic, but it would help the cyclists. But it would at least give somewhat of a barrier or somewhat of an indication that there are other people using the. That's right.
Did Mike, DPW go up because they have to do the measurement, complete streets wouldn't do that, they have to measure, be sure there's a minimum, because you have to have so much on the roadway too for cars, and then you have to have so many feet between the cars and whatever's in embankment there, I think it is. So somewhere in the process, Mike is gonna have to be involved with the measurements, just to say, okay, can we strike this, is this doable?
I'll tell you, he's going to say he's got no money, even if he can.
Well, but just the measurement though.
Right. Yeah, he can do a measurement,
Yeah,
sure.
Measurement, hey,
Sure.
hey,
And yeah, they can certainly do that.
and that would give us an idea of what we need and what we could possibly do that was within budget.
I'm happy to go back to him and ask him if he can measure to say what could be done.
Yeah, because I know
what are our
it curves in a little bit there too, like it's the water runoff too from the road. When the water runs down off the embankment, it's slightly pitched in. I noticed that a couple weeks ago, and that's where the water, you gotta have the pitch so the water runs off the embankments on that one side.
Oh, right.
Where
yeah,
the
sure,
tennis courts
sure,
are,
Yeah.
that comes down, and I know water runs that way into, I think it goes down to the storm drain.
Right, but
on
it's
one
further
side.
up where there's no
Right, but still
sidewalk.
within that gully, or not, it's not really a gully, but it's like a slight indentation
Sure.
to make it like a
Sure.
funnel.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Mike would probably have to look at to measure and see, and how are we gonna be able to get the water to the storm drain too, that's the other.
Sure.
Brian, yes.
Yeah, one of the things is that, they do studies on either continuing to segregate traffic. You have multiple car lanes, you have bike lanes, you have sidewalks, walking lanes. The more you segregate traffic, the more people feel that they have the right of way, in their own little lane, and they tend to ignore cross traffic, which is, I think, part of what you see there.
But Lucas and Lafayette, but not necessarily going to the city line from Forsyth. You don't have a whole lot. You have some residential traffic, but mostly people coming down the hill into the city, and that's right. But not a whole lot of cross traffic.
Yeah. But, as opposed to, going the way of, people, obviously the congregation walks on the street, I assume, right?
Well, they either walk in the street or else they walk on lawns, because on the one side,
On the rough side.
on the rough side, and
Right, so
frankly,
that little-
I wouldn't want to walk on it. I'd walk on it. It's not good.
Well, I'm just saying, as opposed to, continuing to try to divide up the streets. If it just were to, eliminate markets, people, traffic, cars, bikes, everybody shares the same unmarked road, and just bring the traffic speed, particularly there. People come in the city, and I think we all observe it. They're coming in from a 45 down, it goes to a 35, and then it goes to 30, and I'm sure that people, recognize that they don't bother changing speeds. They're still coming in the city at high speed.
Especially coming down the hill.
Coming down the hill,
Yeah.
they're coming in from out of Cotterkill area.
Yeah. So, perhaps the way to make this work, especially in the very short term, since there's no sidewalk going in the next couple of weeks, is, maybe we should take a look at, just signs saying, the roadway is shared by, everyone, and the speed limit should be dropped to some extreme low speed for a bit. When they come in the city, if they see that the traffic is 15 miles an hour, for instance, at the city border, that's a radical enough drop that even if they don't come down from, 45, they might at least go to 30 or 25, and that would certainly help, I think, with the situation on the short run.
I don't know if we can do that, can we? Is there something?
It's a city,
Only if it's by the
Counties,
or something.
counties.
Because we have that, we have that.
discussed it before,
Yeah,
for some
it's
reason,
terrible.
you can't take it below 30. The other thing you gotta
Unless you're
remember is
in the
Lucas
school.
in the morning,
Mhm.
that whole stretch on Lucas in the morning
Yeah, we
is
know.
backed up all the way.
Yep.
It's already almost impossible to get in from, Burham's and from, Voorhees. You oftentimes have to sit on those corners when you're trying to get onto Lucas for quite a long time. People coming in, who have to get to work at 9 o'clock, there's a lot of frustration in that part. Yeah.
that
Well,
light there, Walt?
Luke-
No,
Lucas
there's
is-
one light right in the middle.
Was it
What's
County
that?
Route 1 or
Light
something?
right
I think
there.
Luke is that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
No, the light is
City
further
light
down at the
coming
bottom
from
of the
that way.
hill in front of,
Wow.
right in front of Forsyth Park, but the area between the sewers, the count, the city line and that first light, and
Right.
then there's the second light on Washington Avenue is often,
Yeah,
pretty
but
much
that's-
parked up.
that's
in the
far
woods.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern is not so much for the people who are in vehicles who may be backed up and delayed trying to get on Lucas Avenue, which I appreciate their frustration. Certainly my concern is more of the safety issue, knowing that, I bike there with my kids, and I know that many other people walk those routes, and that's the concern. And so how do we make that stretch safer?
And now you have the pool opening up and of course Forsyth.
That's right.
Well, it goes back to Mike, having to start measuring, then we can work with something, we can say, okay, maybe we can stripe it, if you need
Well,
the minimum.
I
So
mean,
we
at
don't
the
know what
intersection
complete
we're
streets are
talking
done
about.
yet, do we? We can
They
talk
haven't
to
done
Tom.
anything.
They haven't done anything.
They haven't done anything because Rabbi Heck met with them, and they went there and it sat there.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
Maybe we need
the
to talk to
intersection,
Tom Polk and
yeah,
Mike
the
Shaw.
intersection at Lafayette and Lucas has sidewalks
Try to
all
share
around.
some ideas.
Yeah.
Say that again?
I'm saying there's sidewalks on all four corners at Lafayette and Lucas.
There is, but the concern is that when people cross the streets or when you have the kids there, I've had a number of complaints just recently.
Yeah, people
it's-
roll through stop signs.
People roll through those stop signs and
Right.
I think that
So
complete
maybe-
streets, I think they recognize it's a high traffic area for
Right,
kids.
so
It's
I
not
know
a safe route to
Yeah, at
school.
some point we had those, I don't know if we still have them or they've been destroyed, but the, what are they, pylons or whatever? that said,
Yeah, where it
you know,
says pedestrian
Oh,
zone.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, they
So
have
at least an
stolen,
extra
they did them.
reminder, I don't know if we still have them around the city or not, but they did have them for a while. By the Governor Clinton, they were using them for a while.
They kept getting stolen from Kingston Hospital.
Brad, you had something?
I was just circulating that, I just took a look at it after, on my way over here, and, the crosswalks definitely need restriping because they're pretty well faded. But what I'm also thinking might work, because, Rabbi Heck he lives in Ward 3, so I've been copied on the communications that Matt's been receiving. He was asking for lights, and there's no way lights are going to go in there. But something that's low cost might be, and effective, is what we just did over at the Boys and Girls
Yeah, I
Club.
think that's a great
We
idea.
did yield for crosswalk. So if you get that 2 signs with that, and then a stop sign, and then freshly painted, that's not expensive. This is something we could do more quickly at least, for the season.
You used to put on the roadway slow, remember you used to put SLOW?
Yeah, it's slow, you can
Yeah,
stretch
I think
it
all
out.
that stuff helps, really.
Just,
But I like
that's
that
the cost
idea
of
for
4
pedestrian.
signs and repainting the crosswalks. And then at least people are paying a little more attention. They see 2 signs, they might not roll as often.
Right. As far as.
And then none of that needs legislation, we can just talk to Mike on that.
That's
It's
true,
science.
that's true, although, I'll just be honest, I asked, there's another constituent who said, look, the trash can up actually up in your ward, over there by Pugsley's, because there's no trash can, people throw the stuff on the street, doesn't have money in the budget for that extra,
Those trash cans.
those trash cans. They are, so, I didn't get the sense that if there was a request for additional striping or anything else, that if it wasn't in the budget, if he didn't budget for it, it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So that was my concern.
The strike is sponsored by.
Well, and also this time of year, when, every man hour is pretty much accounted for the next several months too, so, believe me, getting a sign made for the sign shop is.
Well, part of the problem is these stripes only last like 1 season.
Yeah,
And they
especially
get
the
worn out.
brutal
I mean, there must be a better quality paint we can
I
specify.
think it doesn't have a lot of salt we got.
It's
down
just,
this winter.
they just get worn down in 1 year. That's a lot of labor.
Yeah, rough winters too, doesn't help.
Is this yours?
No, that's real. Yeah, so let's Steve.
There's a question, Bill, and Dan, if you
Steve, you can do
interest
it.
on this or have any idea. What if we, not necessarily speed bumps, but just rumble strips, something, indentations in the road as you come up to it, it makes you bounce a little bit, give you an idea of coming up. Yeah, or,
I should have on the center line, maybe.
yeah, coming up to those things.
That probably costs them a little bit more
I
money.
understand, but I'm just saying, just as
Well, they also seem
another
to be
comment.
doing work on that. I think they were just doing work on that corner like yesterday and today.
Well, like that
Well, this water department was there.
ripping off the shores.
Right, the sewer thing that they're trying to fix, right?
Talking about green pavement.
And I think, Brian, I think what you're stating is part of that, those traffic calming measures. And to the extent we can implement those measures or even start to implement those and see if they're successful and if residents, find a positive impact, I think that's a good step forward. And unless we start doing it, we know stop signs don't solve all our problems.
Temporarily, too many stop signs.
Temporarily, it would seem that painting the crosswalks to make them more visible and the signs that Brad suggested, I think would be a good short-term fix. But in the long term, I think we just got to get with Complete Streets and Mike and see what funding might be out there and available to pay for some of this stuff as well. See if there's anything that they haven't looked at, because we haven't really, we really haven't dove into this full bore with like the stuff like the rumble strips and all that kind of stuff. And, more creative painting on the streets and that. So, maybe there are things that are out there that we're not aware of, because we know not.
Creative painting on the streets.
Well, we know Complete Streets have, they're slowly implementing those practices throughout the city. We haven't done the same, and those certainly have, Complete Streets have a traffic calming mechanism, but we haven't implemented or taken steps to implement traffic calming measures, or to really identify what traffic calming measures need to be implemented throughout the city, or which ones are effective. I certainly think that's something that's worthwhile to look at and tackle, because I'm sure all of us have received complaints about speeding in the neighborhood, and whether or not they're speeding or not, they're probably going 30 miles an hour or thereabouts, but people don't like it.
And again, we can put a bug in Chief Tinty's ear too for enforcement.
That's right.
A narrow road, it feels like 130.
Yeah, actually, and the other thing, just as a point, maybe for certain weekends, the speed flashing sign we have, like, at least.
You mean a signal thing he puts up?
Talk to Chief Kennedy.
Put
Yeah, we can
drop
drop
that,
that's an
drop that
Done
down
that
to
numerous
6
times.
I know, but,
Yeah.
At the point, they get used to it, then when it goes away, they're right back to the old habits
But
again.
it does make you aware.
It does, until the next
Actually,
time.
we're trying to do something in the short run.
That's right, and that would be something that would be useful. I agree. But I do.
Graham, we need a better solution for the long term.
Well, I'll tell you.
They're going to be walking every weekend.
If you want to get with Mike, I can talk to Tom and pick his brain,
Okay.
and maybe, get with Complete Streets and look for more long-term ideas. But if you want to talk to Mike about something short-term, something that maybe he can do, this season.
The police, I believe, have the.
What were you going to say anyway, Matt?
No, I was going to say that I'll certainly reach out to Mike. I'll do that. But I think it would be a good conversation for us to have to figure out what we can do to implement traffic calming measures in our community. And that may mean that we need to go out and get a grant, try to get a grant, or we have people that have those resources and can give us that advice in terms of what kind of best practices we can implement in different places. And if that's an issue that we're all concerned about, well, maybe we start exploring that issue and figuring out a way to tackle it.
Sounds
Because
like,
we hear the same
sounds
thing
like
over-
to steal Brad's idea for his community, homework assignment. Sounds like maybe a homework assignment where we can all try to come up with some ideas, do a little research,
Well,
and see what other municipalities.
I think once Tom gets some more people on his committee, that was the whole issue, he's got to free. I mean, it's tough to do, traffic calming issue, we got 3 people on the board now, we've
I
kind of
agree.
helped them out a little bit.
I'll talk to.
Well, and then maybe it's something that we want to put out there to say, hey, look, they only have 3 members. Let me ask you, do they only have 3 members on their committee on Complete Streets right now?
Now they're getting them out, you got one, who might be interested.
Oh, I didn't get one. I just
No, I'm saying, at least now
suggested it.
they're actively,
Well, I think they've got 5, so he does actually have a quorum.
Okay.
yeah.
Last time I heard from him.
So it would be good if there were more people so that people can give us the advice that we need so that we can implement these practices in our communities so that our residents can ultimately be safe.
Rebecca, you have something?
Yeah, Dan, remember when the county came in and gave great advice for traffic calming?
Dennis Doyle, this is Dennis
It was
Doyle.
Dennis Doyle, but
Yeah.
whoever does the traffic,
Yeah, Dennis.
the
Yeah.
county knows
They
grants, they know, in fact, they might have visited the council already before.
Yeah.
Give you advice.
Right, Dennis has good ideas because he has resources.
It would probably be Brian.
He gets a better
Brian
connection to
Slack
DOT
as the
than we do.
transportation.
That's who it is.
Yeah,
That would be a quick,
Dennis Doyle.
quick.
Yeah, I did talk to him about that a while ago, and the city has received a lot of money, a lot of studies, and some of those studies have not been implemented. So that's part of the concern. So certainly we can go get another study done, but there has to be a true initiative to implement those.
Yeah, I think we
We
have.
don't want it to sit
Well, we
on
have the
the
one from a
shelf.
few years ago. Yeah, that's been sitting there. So one of
The only one we're shelf sitting.
Give it to take off the shelf and give it to the complete streets, at least they have a little heads up and somewhat of a plan, they don't have to reinvent the wheel, they've got part of it.
And one of the things that I think would be very effective is to reduce the speed limit. I think you were touching upon that, Brian. I mean, and certainly to the extent that we can do that, if we need state approval or whatever it is, 30, and frankly, I don't know about you, but 30 miles an hour on Lafayette is too fast with all the cars and kids, whatever else. So,
Park right up the street.
yeah, park right up the street. So if that's something we can do, we should certainly put it on the table to have a discussion about it.
All right, well, that'll be included in the agenda.
All right.
We have it down.
Just
So
not
we'll
wrap my
just
number, I
continue
haven't
this.
forgotten, it's just,
But in the meantime, see if there's something we can do on that immediate, I think we can immediately do something on that corner just with painting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we need to know legally whether or not we can reduce the speed limit in the city or portions of the
There's a
city.
process that can be done.
If there's a process that we have to follow, or if we can just do it ourselves.
schools you can, but
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll look into it. My recollection is we went through this a couple of years ago when we couldn't. I mean,
Over by,
Well, yeah, it's a state highway.
It's a state highway.
But this is a county highway, so it might be different. Prior to then, they certainly can put in a sidewalk on their own property.
Well, that's the other significant issue with the sidewalk on Lucas Avenue, is that you have private landowners all up and down Lucas Avenue between Burhan's and the city line. And as we all know, securing permission from them, whether it be by easement or other means, is a lot easier said than done. And putting in sidewalks up and down Lucas, we've been discussing this for 20, 25 years. When I was living over there, we regularly lobbied the
the boulevard too.
yeah, it's been on the agenda for as long as I've been here, which is close to 20 years.
Well, then let's do something.
Let's change that.
The sidewalk further up on the Forsyth Park side, right?
Yeah.
Crosses there, and then there's sort of there's a big cutout. I don't know if it's all sidewalk or not, and then it kind of dips back into the road, Further up as you walk.
You're across the street from Forsyth, or you're on the
You're on
same
the
side?
same side.
You actually have to cross back and forth across Lucas Avenue in order to stay on any
Stay on the
sidewalk, because there's no sidewalk in front of the basically,
It stops at the tennis court.
it stops at the tennis
Right,
courts
tennis
there
court.
when you cross. Right.
Yeah, when you cross from the tennis courts going out of the city, though,
Yeah.
there is quite a wide space that's gravel, or you know what I'm talking about, though. And that extends. for a
Yeah,
little
not
bit.
too much. There's not too much space actually between the property owners at probably their property line and the city property line. And
It's probably
is that the house up on the hill there?
yeah, no, the house is on a corner,
Oh,
and then
okay.
it slowly goes up that
There's a
hill.
house on the hill, they just, they come right down.
That's
There
right.
are 2 or 3
But
houses.
there's no grass there
on the
anyway,
hill.
because then as you get there, then also
Right.
it comes right down the
That's
grass.
right.
Grass right up against the street itself.
That's
And
right.
the sidewalks that do exist between Lafayette.
They'd probably be
and-
better
Yeah.
on the other side of the street anyway, at least as far as sidewalks go.
The sidewalks that are there. I mean,
Yeah, if a sidewalk, I don't think
Oh, right.
the sidewalk's the solution. I think there has to be another mechanism that will resolve the problem. I don't think the sidewalk's the solution, but it could be.
For walking on Lucas to get up to the temple, at least sidewalks certainly. why would
It would work. It would work. I think you need some sort of barrier. Maybe a sidewalk is the solution. But Dan said that they've been working on it, talking about it for 20-some years, and to do it is going to. It hasn't gone anywhere. So
No, but the thing that the immediate and easiest solution might be to enlist the private landowners and see how we can try to help them raise money to put in their own sidewalks, between the congregation and them. Because it's private, they can just say, I want to put it in, and put it in.
they could. They could.
There's no obstacle to that,
True.
so.
But we know people probably don't want to. I'm not saying no. I'm just You know, the reluctance would be that they have to maintain it, that's their
Right.
cost.
Right.
I've heard
There's
that.
liability,
I've heard
there's
that
all
as
kinds
well
of.
on the boulevard.
That's right, and then you have different types of signs going off.
Every place in the city where there's a
But I
sidewalk.
think we have,
somebody's
you know,
got
we kind of have, enough beginning ideas to, but I think we've done this before, and obviously, in 20-some years, people have brought this up before, we never really followed up, so I think we,
At
we
least
just
one.
got to commit to
I mean,
following
that's
up
just
and
one.
seeing what we can do, and coming up with some creative solutions.
Well, I would appreciate
I
that.
like the idea of doing some homework on this.
Yeah, we'll come back and
There's probably a
play
million ideas out there we're
Yeah.
not thinking of.
Yep, so we'll talk about this again next month, and,
We can also go to the Ulster County Transportation Board and discuss it with them.
yep. I can reach out to Dennis and Brian as well.
For building a better Broadway, the transportation department's here. Dennis and Ryan's.
Can we change the name of that?
It's not bringing back
Take
Broadway,
away
building a better
LA.
Broadway. Because some in California already had that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to skip over 4 and we'll jump to 5, so a lot of people I think that are here for this discussion. I would like to start by reading the resolution so that we kind of know where I want to go with this, or where I'm thinking of going with this. We talked about it last month and realized it wasn't just a quick changing the wording in the charter. There's going to be a lot more involved in that. So what I'd like to try to do is get the clock started on what the steps are, and with the help of Dan down the road to see if we can move this forward. But let me read the resolution so we have an idea of what the discussion will involve. A resolution to amend the Kingston City Charter C11-5C to state such sale or sales must be approved by New York State Water Power and Control Commission and the Common Council. The and the Common Council will be the added part. The Common Council authorizes the city to take all necessary steps to implement this amendment, including the scheduling of any public hearings, holding a public referendum at the next general election in November, and submitting any necessary documentation to the Board of Elections, and whatever other legal steps are needed to get this on the November ballot. The purpose of this resolution is to provide a safety net for the City of Kingston residents so they will have representation for future sale of water.
So this is any sale of water to anybody?
Outside of the city.
Outside of the
Outside of the
city.
city.
Okay.
Just outside of the city?
Right, because
Outside of the
that's for
city
the
of Kingston.
authorization.
So I mean, if you had Niagara was at the business park and they wanted the same amount of water, then it would be okay?
Well, this amendment doesn't address that situation.
Okay, that's what I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good point, though. Should it be just, should we just leave off?
I mean, do you want to approve water sales of a certain size, or is it any sale outside the city of Kingston?
I
they
just
want?
added that.
I think so.
I don't think we specify the size or volume or quantity or capacity.
Because we sell water in the town of Ulster, and they bring it to whoever. And then, East Kingston.
700,000 gallons. So there's a number, you're right.
But I'm just saying, so does this, then, if it's under the existing contract of the town of Ulster, and somebody adds a house someplace, that doesn't really apply because it's under the existing sale we're making? And if they need more water at some point, then we have to prove that? I'm just mechanics, how is this gonna work for us? We have a deal right now with the town of Ulster. If the town of Ulster adds...
Right, that wouldn't be effective with any.
Well,
any
if the
new
town of
sale.
Ulster adds enough houses in some area, they need to extend it and buy, another 100,000 gallons. Would that come under this, what do you think?
Well, they already have a contract, I'm sure that's covered in their current contract.
Yes, it would come under it, because any,
We're selling more water.
that's right, sell more water outside of the city of Kingston, it would be subject to if the public approves this amendment, then it would be subject,
Assuming
yeah.
this thing goes through.
Yeah, so it'd be subject to our approval, and the DEC's approval as well, and the water
Yeah,
department.
I thought it was interesting when I was doing research, Gloversville, New York has geyser crystal water, and I think they allow them 310,000 gallons in Gloversville. They put up, yeah. I mean, they've been there for a long time. It's a major employer, so they're not about to, they might want to be willing to negotiate, but initially when they started out, I think it was 310,000 gallons a day for Crystal Geyser. So they put up.
Does their city have, are there people represented by in that sale, or is it a separate?
I don't know, just looking online. They also are in a watershed, so the Adirondacks. So they have a little more water, sometimes it's more dependable. But that's how they stated it. Now, I don't know, you don't have access to the contract, and maybe they would allow them further going forward, but I forgot how many people they employ, and that's a major employee in Gloversville. So they're probably going to give them the water if they need it, because it's not too many industries in Gloversville, so. But that was one thing they originally started, 300.
Yeah, I don't even think it's an issue of what, whether or not, all the hypothetical situations that could come up. The point of this is that, we were sitting here with zero representation. The people that voted us in, we had people coming up to me, and I'm like, well, I can't do anything about it. And that to me, that's a little bit scary. I mean, we have no say in it. So that's all this does. I mean, whether you were for it or against it had nothing to do with what this is about. As I see it.
I was sitting on the fence until recently. I read where California is going through a drought, and the water companies were still bottling. Everybody had to tear up their lawns. They couldn't water. I thought, right, this is really gotten out of hand. So that was really a big concern too. That they were able to wiggle through and get them the water to bottle. Well, meanwhile, the people in the towns were told to start digging up their lawns because they couldn't water them anymore. So, yeah, I think there's some along that we've got to
Right,
reach.
it's just not, I don't think it's, it's good for economic development if we have a compromised water supply, and that should, we should at least have some say in that, rather than having it completely taken out of our hands.
Okay, well, the mayor, appoints the members of the water board, so if everybody elects the mayor, don't they have some say through that election? I mean, yeah, the common council doesn't have any say, but the mayor and the water board, I'm just, again, saying, it's not like there's no representation for the people that.
Well, he's one voting member on that board.
My concern is the people that they appoint to the board. Sometimes, right now, they've got people who have degrees in water management, but going forward, if you run out of people who have a background in water and conservation, and I get a little nervous if you put just somebody who's a school teacher on the board, which just happens to teach earth science. As an example, I want somebody who had a little more expertise, and I think sometimes by having the council involved, we have a little more say to kind of control it to a certain extent, rather than, how can you be sure you're going to get qualified people on the board every time there's a new board appointment? That was my other question too.
Well, because we're getting the voices from everyone too. But I mean,
but I'm saying
I know
that's oversight.
I'm agreeing with you.
Right.
But if you do have control, you're hearing everyone's voices, so you can act.
So they can make an informed decision also too. If nothing else, they can make an informed decision.
Yeah, so Matt had requested of Corp Council, Andy Weaven, to kind of write an interpretation. And it sounds like he's mapped out kind of two ways forward for this. One is what you're talking about, what we're talking about right now is getting a resolution out there. And there is a real clock on that if you look at November.
There's timelines.
And the other one is a petition and gathering the 10% of those who voted in the last gubernatorial race election. So those are two distinct ways forward. If we're going to do the way forward we're talking about now, we really have just a couple of months to get it to pass it through.
Right.
Yeah, it's because then there has to be.
So we need to vote on
they're
this
very
next week.
specific. We're doing a reverse calendar from November. There's not a lot of time left for doing it this way. So that's just to point out that it was good to find that out. So thank you for asking the question. And
Thanks to the Corp Council for getting us that.
yeah,
Well, I think
it was very useful.
Well, I think that's part of what we're doing here. We want to kind of get the clock started on that. Is that everyone,
I still want to know the thinking on just outside the city. I mean, if you're concerned about using large amounts of water, which I'm assuming we're talking about large amounts of water, why is it just outside the city that you're so concerned having a voice?
No, I think
And
that's a
big
good
sale
point.
inside the
I'm
city.
not. I mean, I don't.
Was there
I
a
don't think
separate
it's just
place that we should be looking at that describes all sales? I mean, and maybe that's beginning to become an overreach. It's just we're concerned with things that are outside.
Well, it just doesn't follow logical.
Well, it does, because it's discretionary whether or not we sell water. It's
sounds like it's discretionary of whether or not we sell water outside of city limits, to non-residents, non-commercial entities. And certainly the Niagara issue, there's a large amount of water that Niagara Bottling was looking for, and we know that we can make a very simple change to the charter to protect that. And so certainly while you bring up a good point, whether or not we should look at what say the Common Council should have about selling water inside the city, that's not something we've discussed over the many months that we were battling and dealing with or discussing Niagara. It was all about the sale outside of the water. So this has been discussed by residents, it's been vetted by what action we have to take, and so this is a relatively simple solution to address this specific issue of sale outside of the city, water outside the city. I certainly agree with you that it'd be worthwhile to look at what actions we should take, if any, about the sale of water inside the city and what kind of impact. But I don't think that discussion is for tonight. That discussion is for another time when we have, when we can discuss that issue in more detail. Especially since all the conversation has been focused on the sale outside of the city.
Will we have to go through this process all over again, though, if we decide a later date to do it? So now we're going to go through the process twice. I understand what he's trying to say. Should we get it inclusive? Do it the first time out of the gate, or do we come back and keep opening the latch and put more in?
But, we certainly would then have to have more discussion, and that may put your time clock back.
I think we try to keep it simple for our purposes
Okay.
here.
I'm just trying to figure out a way not to keep repeating yourself, going through this process.
And this will be actually a really good learning process for the council and for the public, and so that people are familiar with all the steps that it takes, and so that we're educated about the steps that we need to take to modify our charter, if that's what we want to do, and to get the public to say about changes to the charter. And certainly next year, if the Common Council or Charter Commissioner, whoever wants to address other changes, we'll be more educated about that process.
Well, the other piece of that is that the sale of water inside the city, there are other restrictions, other boards, there's planning board, there's a lot of other factors that come into play. It's not just selling water and that water goes and we have we have no control, we have no say in what town of Ulster is doing with the water. Where if it's in the city, there are enough departments where there's oversight and there's other safety nets to where, to me, it's not as threatening or scary to think that might happen with sale of water inside the city. That's how I look at it.
And you're right. I think we have a lot more say about what happens with our various boards, and I think that's a good point, Bill.
So I think this is all, I would just add that whatever action we take here tonight, that shouldn't discourage, a petition drive by anybody who wants to take that up from occurring as an insurance, just to make sure we're not missing the boat.
And if that goes up, then I ask the question, who's going to be in charge of the petition, who's going to be, where they're going to get the data from, we got to be sure it's done.
We don't have to.
No.
We don't have to
I
worry
would say
about
the
the petitions out of
Common Council
our
should not be
hands.
involved in this. No, this has got to be a separate.
Yeah, that's not us.
No.
Unless you want to work together on that.
Yeah, C11.4C is specifically outside the city, so.
And I do have one question. Who holds? I know in Corp Council's email it said that the mayor holds the public hearing. Is that correct? That the mayor does it, or
20
does
days after.
Right. Is it the mayor, or is it the Common Council that holds
Mayor.
the vote? It's the mayor. Great.
And, I haven't seen the memo, I don't even know what it says, to be honest. I mean, I saw it, but I don't have a copy of it. I was, working on some other matter.
When does that come?
I
Is
just
that an email
got
from Andy?
this today.
Andy sent out something.
Oh, okay.
The mayor holds, I'll just read it, holds a public hearing which must be called within 10 days of the passage of the law by the Common Council and must be held within 20 days of passage.
And now let me just, when I read that, it reminded me of a question I thought of right away. Common Council passes the law. So since this is a local law now,
It needs 2 readings, yeah.
Okay, so we actually have to go through 2 readings, 2 months, then it's passed.
Then it's passed by the council,
And
and
then
then the mayor
the
holds
public
a public
hearing,
hearing
then he can sign the law.
after the public hearing,
After the public hearing.
consideration of
And
the
then we have to have a
public
referendum.
Yeah.
And it can't be less than 60 days.
Yes, okay.
So there's
Time is of the
restrictions on
essence.
both ends.
Quick question, this is public safety, does that have to go to laws and rules?
No,
You sure?
yeah.
Isn't there changing the law?
That's
Changing-
President Noble's decision.
Jim Noble referred to this committee.
But I'm just asking, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's pending in this committee.
We're
I think
very sick.
Yeah, I don't think, that's at the,
Local law can.
I'm
Whatever
just
the
asking
president-
because it's a local.
well, like we had the one,
Local law.
the finance,
You know.
for the, Mike Shutt for the trucks that passed through. This committee wasn't a finance issue, but
I'm
he
just
made,
making sure because I want all the I's
Yeah.
dotted and T's crossed, so we're not, screwing
I'll
up.
entertain a motion on this.
Motion.
Second.
That's-
Steve?
All right, great.
Oh, yeah, you weren't here on time, he took over for you, took over from Mary.
No, that's
On
not.
to further discussion, any other comments before we take the vote?
I'd like to know, the specifics is the portion, and you're saying that it is the outside water sales, is that part of the charter?
That's the part of the charter we're speaking
Yeah,
of.
it is.
Now, just as a question, because I know it's come up before, what about the water board charter? Does that need to be changed in any way?
Well, none of this is to say that the state would let you do it anyway.
Okay.
Okay,
But
that's
I'm
a
just-
completely different issue.
Right. All right, so let's just go on with this then, I guess we'll
Yeah, this
we'll
really,
cross
I
those
think,
when we get to them.
well, I think what this does, it just kind of gets us,
Right, we'll get
gets the
started.
ball rolling a little bit, and then we rely on Dan and Andy to help guide us through this process. Matt?
I'll just say, I think this is really great of this council. We've stuck with this issue for a number of months. We've responded to the public, and we continue to do so. And now this is really, assuming it passes the council and the mayor signs it, that to give the public the right to decide whether or not we're going to sell our water outside.
Right, then they
the city
have,
limits.
it's their call.
I think it's the public's call, and I think to give that power to the public and ultimately to the representatives is spectacular and exciting. I'm excited about this.
I think they had good intentions back in 1895, but I don't think they ever in their wildest dreams thought people would actually bottle water and sell it.
From California.
Yeah, times have
Think
changed.
about it, they used to bring in
Only
buckets.
take ice out.
Kind of like the Tuttle when they had horse and buggies and now they have buses
All
and
your metal
tractor trailer. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Can we read the resolution?
Want me to read it again?
sorry.
Sure.
Just so.
Resolution to amend the City of Kingston City Charter C11-5C to state such sale or sales must be approved by the New York State Water, Power, and Control Commission and the Common Council. And that's the part that's added at the end of the Common Council. The Common Council authorizes the city to take all necessary steps to implement this amendment, including the scheduling of any public hearings, holding a public referendum at the next general election in November, and submitting any necessary documents to the Board of Education, and whatever other legal steps are necessary.
Election.
What's that?
You don't want to submit it to the Board of Education.
Did I say education? Oh my God.
It's just a cross out, Bill. It's consistent with all.
No, I didn't cross it out. I actually wrote it right. I just
Oh God,
didn't use it.
education's getting something.
Mary Ann, be proud of me, there's no cross-outs on this so far. Thank you, Dan. And whatever other legal steps are needed to get this on the November ballot. Purpose of this resolution is to provide a safety net for the City of Kingston residents, so they will have representation for future sale of water outside the City of Kingston.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, and I echo Matt's sentiments that this is a very important first step to make this happen. Rebecca, you know something? Go ahead.
I just want to thank you all for sticking with us here on this, and I'm so relieved that we're moving this forward, and I'm committed to help in any way. If there's a petition process,
Oh, yeah.
we're happy to help the council and support the council in moving this forward and getting as many citizens as necessary to do what's required. So thank you so much.
Ken, you had something?
It's okay.
All right, well, thank you. It's going around. Now we'll move on to something not quite as
Boring.
critical. So, yeah, now we're just back to the regular public safety stuff. The number 4, parking on Greenkill Avenue, that's mine. There's a driveway that's next to Stewart's.
Is that 5 corners thing?
No, it's past that. It's on the back side of Stewart's. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
It's behind Stewart's. There's a driveway where the people can't back out of their driveway when cars are parked to the edge of their driveway. And it's, you know where
Greenkill Avenue, or is it?
Greenkill, you go
As you
past
cross
Stewart's,
over
right across from
You cross over
Kings.
Clifton? Cross over Clifton, and then you're...
Stewart's, you know where Stewart's is.
Yeah, that 5 corners, that weird one.
Right, but it's behind Stewart's. It's not
Okay.
at the 5. Yeah.
There's a house behind it?
Yes.
Well, between,
It's a
you're
driveway.
talking about, it's on
Between
the
Washington
corner of
and-
Washington and Greenkill, opposite from the pizza place.
Yes.
So not the same side, but opposite the pizza joint, right?
No, it's not at the 5 corners. If you go through the 5 corners on Greenfield, it's right behind Stewart's. There's a driveway there.
Right as you hit Washington Avenue, on your left-hand side, you'll see the driveway.
It's actually before you get to Washington Avenue. It's right behind Stewart's. I mean, you could.
This is not the same issue about the liquor store and the parking. This is
No,
another, okay.
No,
This
it's
is
another one.
this is that same corner.
No, I've dropped that one
Okay,
momentarily.
all right, so this is on the other side then.
So what are we suggesting here?
Okay, well, here's the problem. So they can't back out of their driveway when cars or something's parked there. So I wanted to put a no parking between signs at the end of their driveway for 20 feet.
They still do it.
Well, at least there's enforcement. Yeah, but then they have.
Well, people are parking right in front of the driveway?
Yeah, they're parking
No, they're
in the
parking
garage.
right next to the driveway. The driveway ends here, they put a car here, so they're going to back out.
Well, but
They
any
can't
curb,
see.
I know there's language already that if there's a curb cut, you have to be so many feet away from it. I mean, that's just enforceable.
On the driveway?
Yeah. Any curb
Well,
cut.
from
Well,
the corner.
what I think would make this easier,
Yes, there is.
or more
You have to give them.
understandable, or better, so that you're not taking away a parking space. There's also a bus stop there, which allows, you can't park there with like, at the 45-minute, certain time. So if we just have no parking between signs, that would include that bus stop.
Well, that would.
And I think it just, because right now,
Where's
the
bus
woman,
stop?
she's just
Say that
backing
again.
out.
Where's the bus
It's
stop?
right at the edge of that driveway, right
It's
where I
a
want to
wonderful
put this sign.
intersection in general. It's just a wonderful,
Because when she backs out of there, she's just like, you can't see, and she's, I walked over there, and it is, you can't see backing out of
There's
her
cars
driveway.
parked right up there and you're barely squeezing through.
And plus cars parked, there's one spot, like, before you get to Stewart's parking lot, there's one spot where one car can park, and she's not worried about that, because she can, once she gets out, it's the one when she has to back out this way, so she'd be happy with that, and I didn't see it being.
So what do you suggest?
So, yeah,
Like 10
what do you
feet from the
propose?
thing, from here to
20 feet from her driveway to the 20 feet from
I know it's
her
20 feet.
driveway to,
the corner.
well, no, going the other way, not to the corner. Her driveway goes towards the
Well, I know
corner.
it's 20 feet from an intersection, you can't park a car on the
So
street.
you're gonna,
Right, that's why I chose 20 feet.
Is Sterling and Greenkill in your ward?
Wait, but is
This
the
has nothing to do,
is the
put it on
space
next
only
month's
20 feet?
agenda. What's
Is the
that?
space only 20 feet from? Is it only from the intersection to her driveways?
No, there's more. It goes all the way to Washington. It's a longer stretch than you realize. So the resolution reads to put no parking.
I'm sorry, so you're talking about from the driveway going towards the 5 corners is where you want to restrict parking?
No, it's going the other way.
Okay, that's
Let's all go to Stewart's. If you buy everyone ice cream, I'll
Let's
take
go.
that.
let's all go over there right now.
I've proposed this in the past, and you will refuse to go on field trips.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Stop and get ice cream.
You want me to draw it out?
Mary Ann down at...
All right, so it's
Let me draw it
from
out.
the edge of the driveway going towards Washington Avenue is what you're talking about. I just got, when I listened to you, I was like, is he going the other way now?
Just
No,
make
the
sure
other
it's
way
back
is
in their
Going
driveway.
towards Wall, really.
Yeah.
Where's the pictures?
I got picture, I
I
got...
know, hey, I'm not Brad
It's in
Will.
gloss.
I'm not Brad Will, come on.
I like that picture.
You draw it straight line.
Oh, that's very good, Bill.
Okay, here's Washington
Stewart.
There.
You have art class?
There you go.
Avenue. Okay.
Oh,
Right,
just
right there we go.
Okay. Visual
I
aids here.
can't read it.
Too bad. Put your glasses on. That's Stewart's. that's Washington Avenue,
Okay.
this is Greenkill.
Where's the
And
down
here's-
here?
Here's the five, there's the
Washington-
five, there's the five
Washington-
corner there.
Okay.
Washington Avenue, oh, it'd be
And where do you want no
Stewart's.
parking?
Behind Stewart's, I've said behind
Oh,
Stewart's.
not
I think-
inside.
Repeatedly, I've said behind
We're
Stewart's.
talking right there.
Do you have a
We're
map?
talking right there.
I'm supposed to see that?
Right
Is
here.
that a Google map?
Is that Stewart's?
That's Stewart's, that's here. You're talking right there.
There's a whole
Where's
block behind Stewart's
is-
to Washington
this is
Avenue.
Stewart's.
That's not near the corner.
Yeah, there's a whole block there. I
Yeah.
got it right here. You're talking about
Yeah,
that
the
part?
driveway's back here though, on
There's a
Greenkill.
blinking light.
No, no, this is
Right,
Greenkill,
Just after it, right?
This is
Blinking
Greenkill,
light
that's
where it comes
Stewart.
out with,
That's,
Washington comes out to, what's it,
No.
32?
hold on.
It's a blinking
No,
light.
it's not.
So you're talking
Anyway, let me-
Greenkill
let me
behind
just-
that?
At the boulevard.
All right, so here it is, here's the five-way, all right?
Yeah.
There's Greenkill, here's Stewart's. Everyone knows it now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
that goes to Washington. As you're coming here, there's a driveway, like right next to Stewart's.
Oh, yeah.
Right next to
There's
it.
some
It's like probably
cedars
2
there.
feet from their
They have
property.
yard sales a lot.
Yes.
Yes, they just had one there, I was there the other day.
Bill, behind Stewart's?
It's a nice, it's a nice shady zone.
That's a good reference point.
And it's
Behind,
It actually is helpful.
and here's the,
We're talking about behind the barricade.
so here's what I want, right here. I just want this right here so that she can back out and not have a
Okay,
view
well,
obstructed.
Isn't the barricade still up over here for, you can't go past there anyway because of the sinkhole?
The barricade's right here.
No, it's-
Barricade's in front of you.
Yeah, local traffic only.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, anyway.
But they do, they still get
That's
there.
unfortunate.
You got the Greek church there, you got people still.
And just Stewart's at lunchtime.
You guys are tough with my little parking things here.
I never knew there was a house behind that, so this is like news.
It's very, there's a lot of trees there.
Yeah.
So anyway, a resolution to put no parking between signs on Greenville Avenue to the right of the driveway behind Stewart's for 20 feet to the right. There is no visibility for cars backing out of that driveway and is a safety.
Where's the other, where are the two signs gonna go?
It'll be on the,
One?
right, just to the right of the driveway, then 20 feet over
Now,
there.
but what
And
happens,
there's also a bus stop there.
so if she
that
wants to pull on the bus and stop, she'll just have to wait till the bus moves
Absolutely,
on.
of
Okay.
course, she doesn't, yeah.
I think that's fair
It's
because, I mean,
reasonable.
they're right up against that Stewart, which is a very busy place, so it's fair, it sounds
Right.
like it's a fair
And
decision to make.
And there's other issues that have nothing to do with this, where there's a lot of county trucks by then, but I think that's more of a, kind of a personal issue, which has nothing to do with this. This is just for safety and visibility, and I'm not worried about the,
It's a license plate.
the staff that might be going on.
I think we got it.
You think you need 20 feet though?
Can I get a motion on that?
Yeah, that's the,
I give you a motion on
Steve?
that.
Yeah.
Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
This is one of those I'm sure is going to come back.
I'm not even sure if this is in my ward anymore. It might be yours. No, it's
pretty
not
close.
actually. No, it's right,
Not
right,
mine.
right at the edge.
So Mike Ship, he's gonna have to find the money for those two parking, no parking there.
Yeah, we'll get him.
Can they recycle? I'm taking handicap.
Well, he must have,
Can they
he must
recycle?
budget for signs,
Because we
right?
took some
So-
handicap signs down uptown and I was up there the other day and they're still standing there.
Okay, thank you for that.
Well, I have a couple of them I'm going to take out. and move
Next
over.
is the traffic light at John and Wall.
John and Wall, okay.
Try to
that's
take
fine.
This came up at the last meeting also when they talked about when we put the blinking light at the end of Wall and North Front, they talked about the
And John,
light on John and Wall.
right by the LBGQ and that Donner and the Chinese restaurant, that corner, top to bottom, that corner,
I
right?
think it's back. I think it's back.
Bottom to bottom.
Is that where it is? Yeah, right by
Yeah,
where.
that corner.
Yeah, it's right there. That's-
Because what's happening there, people like try to, beat the red light or run the red light, there's a lot of
There's a
people
traffic
speed
light.
up. There's a traffic light there.
While we're on that
And
corner,
it was suggested that the traffic light be removed and just 2 stop signs put up so that it would create continuous flow there, where you just stop and go, just stop and
That's
go.
a major walk
I don't
area.
think so, that's right in the heart.
That's right in the heart.
But also, and I talked about this with Brian, I said, what that corner needs is a no right turn. Because
Right.
people come from John, and they'll turn onto Wall,
Right,
going up the wrong way.
yeah.
And I got folks, people
No,
who
it's
people
not-
who work there see that happen all the time.
Stop sign, so you agree stop sign's not gonna work there.
I mean, what it is
They
that
need to put a sign up.
wherever there's a one-way sign on Wall Street, it's not near that corner, so people don't recognize it. Well, most people recognize it.
Not-
The traffic's going one way and they figure it out.
Or they haven't been
Some
there,
people
they
don't
haven't been in
see it.
Kingston since it was two-way traffic, and they figure, oh, just traffic.
Yeah, no, stop, right in the middle of the busy area, I just think
So
you're gonna need the
I
light.
think maybe, you know,
So nobody's in favor of...
Not a stop sign, not there. That's a
Okay, you'd
major
rather keep the
crossing.
light? What about you, Matt? You have anything, any?
You know, I think
let me just say, before you do this, I would survey the businesses up there and see what they think about it. Because if nobody's been informed about it, and then suddenly the light comes down and stop signs go up.
Okay, I can
There's
guess,
gonna-
right. I
there's
think
gonna
a
be-
lot of them were planning about it,
I'll
but...
run.
Yeah, why
it
don't you
by.
do that? Yeah.
Yeah,
it
because
might
like
be
that,
useful to also reach out to the Uptown Business Association.
That's the right stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
do
I'm
that.
saying.
Yeah, would you do that?
Yes.
I'd appreciate it. Very good.
because that is one of the busiest corners, because they're going
Well,
either
but, you know,
downtown,
if-
or they're going.
even if they don't like the idea, if they don't know about it and it suddenly gets passed, they're gonna be.
Yeah, no.
I think it's worthwhile to discuss
If you
that.
look into that, I'd appreciate that. That'd be great.
No problem.
The other one...
The other thing is that if you want to solve the problem you're talking about, is as you come up John Street towards Wall, on one of those posts, you could put up a one-way sign pointing it. So when people come up, they go, oh, it's one way.
I know.
No, stuff,
Well, because
things like that, they don't
there's
need,
no one-way sign.
we don't need a
Well, it might-
resolution for
You know,
that.
there is,
think so.
if you're on Wall Street and you want to make that right-hand turn onto John, right, there is a no right on red sign. Anybody know where that
It's
is?
not full-time, though.
What's that?
It's not full-time.
Yeah, it's on Pearl Street, isn't it?
No.
No, it's on Wall.
Here's the traffic light, right, on Wall Street, and this sign has to be about this big, and it's up high, it's higher than the traffic light itself.
Signage uptown is horrible.
It's just like this little tiny
Don't they
thing.
have
Yes,
sitting on a
now you
shelf,
mentioned that, it's like,
It is.
oh.
Well, if you want, that's a good
Way
idea.
out.
I don't think we need legislation for that, for just the...
No, I'm just saying, but I'm just.
If you want to talk,
There's-
yes, Mike.
There's different signs uptown, and if you didn't know they were there, you would never.
That is a very tiny one there.
It's,
We're not voting on this, right?
We're not gonna, no, it doesn't sound like this is gonna have any steam, so that's okay. He'll look into that.
I think it's something that the business owners do, that's possible.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I agree with that.
I think it's a good idea, I think it's worth exploring to just continue the conversation, carry it over next month, have Brian, if Brian's got a report from next month, or
Yep.
we get a letter from the Uptown Business Association. I mean, anything that we can do to reduce the maintenance of those lights, because we know those lights ain't cheap.
Wow.
And still maintain traffic safety.
Right, but they're eventually gonna break down too, because there's an old one right there.
And similarly, there was someone else that brought this up, I'm just gonna throw it out there, I don't really,
Okay, throw it.
I'm throwing it out there. On the corner of St. James and Fair Street,
That's a
someone,
different story.
the light
Saint
out of
James,
there,
okay,
and
fair.
That
the stop.
beautiful house with the giant columns is at that corner.
Oh, that's my husband's office.
And the suggestion there was also the same thing, because I think one's a one-way, so it'd be, I think, 3 stop signs and replace that light, so it's
I'm just.
a stop sign.
Fair's one way and St. James is two.
Yes.
St. James and Fair, okay.
That can be a homework assignment, we'll look into that.
Is there any way to
I
keep
wasn't
it?
prepared
I'm
to,
not sure if it's still
Yeah,
there.
I think
but-
it's there. I just wanted to throw it out
My
there.
husband's office is right off of
Yeah.
Cliff.
I'm not up that way
If you're
enough to...
If you're on Fair at St. James.
Who's
okay?
more, is that
If you
Nina's?
look on so your left-hand opposite corner,
Okay.
there's big columns, I don't know if it's still there, used to be an antique store in there, stuff like that, the guy had a bunch of stuff. And then on the other one's his big yellow house across
Okay.
the street, and then there's a big stone, I think, that may be the corner where Andrew's architecture building is too, I'm not sure. Maybe it's on the block down. But anyway,
St. James and Law.
it's a pretty distinctive corner, I think. And you want to replace that one with stop signs as well?
I don't, somebody asked about that, I thought I'd throw it out there and see if, that's Nina's ward, I can ask her. if she
Those
wants to look
streets
into that.
back in that area,
Right.
I've
That was
seen
just
I've
part-
seen people go right through them. I mean, even with a stoplight, and I don't know if there's a stoplight there now.
Yeah,
You put a
we've
stop
gone
sign.
over that, you can't legislate good driving
I know you
and
can't.
idiocy,
You
you
know, and I
just
try
have
to
to...
tell people, go back and take driver's ed, but yeah, you can't legislate manners.
No, just today I was driving, and there's a red light at Roosevelt, and then there's a red light, by the Stewards in the Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Right,
People don't recognize that the one's red and the other
Right,
one's green.
right.
I saw 2 cars, one
Yeah,
following
right
the
through.
other, right through the red light.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
through
that,
Roosevelt.
same with East Chester and Hasbro, we had an accident there tonight, one last weekend,
All right, come on, that's not on the agenda.
that's gonna be.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless anyone has anything.
Motion. Are we done?
Second.
I think that's my first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have vouchers left?
I don't know.
Maybe a couple, we did pretty good.
I've signed the ones I've signed.
These look like they're free. These are, I know.
Thank you very much, that was a good